Welcome back. Don't forget to make the Sunday Herald Sun an integral part of your Sunday tomorrow. Scotty Palmer is hard at work at the offices of the Sunday Herald Sun at the moment. And Scotty, in the world of football, there's hardly a bigger name than Peter Dacos. We saw him taken from the ground today. What's the latest?
Not a dislocation, strained shoulder ligament, Sandy. It'll keep him out of action probably 2 or 3 weeks. Certainly the State of Origin match is out, and Collingwood might have to do without him for a couple of matches.
Yes, just on that, Scotty, with the State of Origin and that squad, are they going to add to that? I heard a whisper that Gary Pert could be added.
Gary Pert, well, that's a new one on me, because I was speaking to the team manager tonight, and he doesn't expect any names to be added tomorrow night at 8 o'clock when the team is sort of decided down at AFL House. He feels that they've probably got all the options worked out there. A few names, of course, it has to be dropped from 32 to 22, and a couple of young boys are going to miss out, unfortunately.
Right, and that will be cut tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock, Sandy.
Right, great news for Collingwood as far as the win's concerned. The goal-scoring machine from Cardinia Park has been stopped. Is there any drama as far as Malcolm Blight's concerned?
No, he said there's always a stage in a match, Sandy, where things are critical. And he said it happened in the second quarter. There were 3 or 4 goals in front, the Cats. He said we made 3 or 4 blues. Collingwood got the goals, and that was it. But he said we're going to learn from our mistakes, and I think they will, because it was a great game out there. Collingwood put the stoppers on their forwards, and that was it. But Dacos kicked that magical goal, Sandy, and he said as soon as he put it on his boot, he knew it was going to roll in.
Really?
Yeah, and he said now you can call him, quote, a professional I ... I
think it rhymes with class.
That's
he is
exactly
all class.
Right.
That's all we're going to say on that.
That's all we're going to say.
Down at Moorabbin, Scotty, Tony Lockett celebrated with 12, and Ken Sheldon did the right thing by the state selectors.
He didn't really, because he's got ice packs on his shoulder tonight, Lockett, and he said, on his ankle, I should say, and he said that he would like the match to be played on a Saturday, not a Tuesday.
Yes, but he did rest some of his players that are playing on Tuesday night.
He did do that. He took a few off for 20 minutes at a time. Fellas like Harvey, Winmar and Burke, just to give them a bit of a rest, because he knew they were going to be overtaxed over the next couple of days and didn't want to sort of ruin their chances. Footscray,
there was a big rumour around Footscray that they'd backed themselves against Richmond today.
Yes, I'd heard the rumour too that they had each put in some money to have a bet on winning at 24 points or over. They didn't win by 24 points or over, and the club really got to it and quashed that rumour tonight, because you can be fined for doing that now, Sandy.
Exactly right, and we don't want to do the wrong thing, do we, Scotty?
We do not. Of course, Alan Jeans, he's got big Stephen Jackson on report for charging tonight, but he was very pleased with his team's commitment. Scott Turner, his young full-back, will have an X-ray though on an arm injury.
Time is running out against us, Scotty. John Northey would be a relieved man tonight, wouldn't he?
A very relieved man, very, very pleased about his young players, particularly Sean Charles, age 17, who kicked 5 goals. He said he worked beautifully with Darren Bennett today, but they're looking after the boy. They're not going to push him ahead too fast. So, obviously, they've got some plans for the young sensation down there, Sandy.
Your time is up, Scotland, but in closing, all I'm going to say is keep punching.
Keep punching, my boy.
Thank you, Scotty. And, of course, Sunday Herald Sun out tomorrow. Before I go, State of Origin football, it's on Tuesday night. And, of course, here in Melbourne, you'll be able to see all the action from 9:30. Or if you're going to the game, then you might like some of the paraphernalia that they are giving away. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Hope you can join us on Tuesday night for State of Origin.
This has been another 7 Sport production, the network of the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.
Football 92, proudly brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors, BP Australia, CUB, Westpac, SIO.
West Coast, they kicked a goal within a minute. Anthony Modra, who went on to kick 5, but after that West Coast dominated. They kicked 5 goals in 7 minutes in ordinary conditions. Chris Lewis had an excellent match. He was outstanding, particularly in the first 3 quarters. Kicked a couple of goals. This was one incident early in the game that got everybody fired up. It was a sellout in Perth, but unfortunately it rained very heavily and only 22,000 people able to go, but that gave them some cheer. And Evans, Sumich didn't get a goal on Friday night, a bit surprisingly, but young Evans, who kicked 3 the week before against Carlton, chipped in with 2. Well, what a terrific contest this game was. Brown and Ablett as part of that contest, and an excellent goal by Gary Ablett, but in the end, well, Gavin Brown had the best of that duel. Peter Dacos kicked 5 goals before going off injured. Scotty Palmer will let us know about his injury today. And again, some of his goals were quite miraculous. He's able to produce the extraordinary when you well, least expect it. But I guess we should be now expecting it from Dacos. Kelly and Heffernan there, Monkhorst and Brownless. Bouncing Billy didn't have a good day yesterday. And this one was... Very, very interesting. I wasn't at the match yesterday, but Manson's taken the mark. He looks like he's in all sorts of pain. Nice close-up there, James. Couldn't take the kick. Yeah, Bernie, I think, onto it there, just to see that Ronnie McEwen was going to take the kick. I think at one stage Dacos was lining up to take the kick, or one of the other players. But anyway, Ron took the kick. He'd missed an easier one a few minutes before, but he bent this one back. Look what happens after this. I don't really think I need to describe it. Buse and Manson. Watch this one. So James reckons he's all right. Here we go.
Listen to the... Oh, boy! Oh, it's going to be on now. Well, Manson just went abused there.
So that got things going just before half-time. And this got them going just after half-time. Well, you've got to say that's lucky, don't you? Not even Dacos could do that again, surely. Oh, but he did it. He's an extraordinary player. And this is where he got injured, unfortunately. He seems to be playing better now than ever. He's one of the great characters and outstanding contributors to the game. Smith and Pickering, that's a good performance by Melbourne. This is where Rock got injured. Very unfortunate for North Melbourne because he's emerged in the last 12 months as their outstanding small player. They had a whole heap of rovers 12 months ago, but this is a man who's emerged. Well, terrific play here by Bennett. Excellent to get it back to Charles and the young 17-year-old who kicked 5 goals in the second half and made an auspicious debut for the Demons. Real scare out at Western Oval for Footscray. That was Stanfield and Gale. They were 10 goals to 3 at one stage, Footscray, and then Richmond got level early in the last quarter, coming home with what looked to be the breeze. But Footscray able to hold off. Just saw Rowan Smith, an excellent goal, and this is where he went off after this tangle with Knights. St Kilda, oh, Danny Frawley doesn't kick too many goals, but he got one there from Harvey. Back in the team, Danny, after a couple of weeks out with injury, and the captain leading the way. But it was Tony Lockett's show again. He kicked 8 goals until half-time, 12 in total. It's the 5th time that Lockett's kicked 12 goals in a match. He has kicked 13, and he certainly kept the Dunstall-Lockett battle for supremacy for the John Coleman interesting. David Rhys-Jones, a terrific comeback to footy. 4 goals yesterday, being out for so long, and with Stephen Kernahan 7, and Carlton kicked pretty straight and were able to win. The reports, a couple, Jackson allegedly charging Hunter in the opening quarter, Richmond and Footscray, and Kehoe allegedly striking Schwash in the second quarter, Melbourne and North Melbourne. So those to be heard at the tribunal. The headlines around Australia, well, the Times, Sunday Times in Perth, say that Peter Wilson back with a vengeance on Friday night with 4 goals in his first match for the season. Why not put him in the state of origin? I'm going to ask Scotty Palmer about that in a moment. The Sunday Mail in Adelaide says that, well, Graham Corn's running out of options at the moment. No Klug and no McGuinness, and Adelaide with 4 consecutive losses, which is their worst performance in their short history. And the Age in Melbourne, the Sunday Age, says that it was the day that Geelong's bubble burst. Scotty Palmer joins us. Scotty, welcome. The latest on Peter Dacos, mate.
Well, he has the strained shoulder ligaments. Now, they gave a 2 or 3 week estimate of how long the injury might last. But they won't know for sure until Monday when he is examined again by the doctors, probably x-rays taken. So they're just hoping that is the correct distance of the injury, but it could be less, could be more. What about Brad Hardy? Has he got a chance of forcing his way back in? Well, poor old Brad would have been the ideal choice. He broke his finger, of course, a few weeks ago. It hasn't knitted. So poor Brad has to have it re-broken again, and hopefully the knit will be done. But he's going to miss out on his opportunity of replacing Dacos in the side, which he was recruited for in the first place. Well, he's most unlucky. Gary Pert, any chance of him playing in the interstate game? They almost died at Collingwood last night when they read his name as a possible selection, because they said he's been out for 18 months with a knee reconstruction. It takes him a little bit of time after each match to get going again. So they said 2 games in sort of 3 or 4 days for Pert would be just too much of a strain on the boy. Oh, well, we'll ask, we've got 3 selectors in today, so we'll ask them all, Ron Barassi, Kelvin Moore and Gerard Healy, about Pert's situation. Now, Matthew Robin, is he going to play for Hawthorn this year or not? Well, he's made sort of a concession that he'd probably do a commuter trick and fly in and fly out, and hopefully that would have sufficed for Hawthorn. But they rejected the idea. They said it's never worked that way. I think Barash tried it once with Ebert at North Melbourne and it didn't work. What's happening is that John Laritz is going over to Adelaide to try and talk to Robram again, hopefully sign him up for another contract. But if that doesn't work, it looks like the November draft, I suppose, for a deal. OK, speaking of drafts, the mid-season's coming up. There's been a bit of activity in Perth. My spies caught 2 club talent scouts over there through the week. One was Jim Durnan talking to a kid called Jay Jay Burton. Now, he's the younger brother of the 6'11" or 7'8" Matthew Burton from the West Coast Eagles. Now, the Richmond club want Jay over here before June to perhaps play in the reserves and sort of make the seniors before the season. The other one is Richard Griffiths, the talent scout of Melbourne. He was over there talking to Phil Gilbert from Claremont. He tried to do the deal before June, but Phil's decided to stay.
Who's captaining Western Australia?
Looks like John Worsfold is odds on to captain. He bailed out last year through injury. Main Waring got the job, but it looks like you get the job down.
Now, what's happening with the Victorian state team?
Well, they had the medical call today. 3 players turned up. Steins with a little bit of a corky. We'll have a test on Monday night. Ezzo with a crook belly. He's okay. And, of course, Tony Lockett, first there today, will play and no problems with his ankle.
And there's a Chinese dinner on tonight.
6 o'clock tonight, the selectors meet with a Chinese dinner, and the declaration is no booze because they want to have a clear head before they pick the side.
Why not? I was in Perth twice this week, and I know you're Spy, mate, because you had a T-shirt on, Scotty's Spy. So I worked it out at the airport. Now, what's happening here?
These are the new Victorian gear introduced by the league. They'll be on sale down there at the MCG on Tuesday night. Come on, Victoria, let's go and get those West Australians.
Well, we've got a lot of friends watching in Perth at the moment, Scotty, so I won't endorse that product just at the moment. They're selling a lot of things at the moment, aren't they?
Yes, at Kmart they're selling Victorian Guernseys, and I know this is going to upset one of our panel members. $49.95, the Sacred Guernsey, and I know that Bob Davis, very, very unhappy.
Well, he's been unhappy once before in his life.
He said the Victorian Guernsey should be like the shroud, like a coveted shroud to put around those players.
Well, that hat shouldn't be, Scotty, that's all I'll say. Keep punching.
Good on you, mate.
We'll take a break. Bob Davis will be back with the rest of the panel after this.
Leon had a major problem.
I was murdered!
So he gave his heart to science. Unfortunately, science gave it to Jack.
Racial prejudice I can understand, but ghost prejudice...
A bigoted cop and a cool spirit.
You're looking very stupid now.
2 guys, 1 heart and 1 girl.
She's in love with you!
Every partnership has its problems.
Well, if I wasn't dead, I'd...
Denzel Washington.
Get him one time for me, Millie, would you?
And Bob Hoskins.
Get down, brother. Give me 5.
For the first time, Heart Condition. 8:30 Monday on 7.
These days, you have to face some very heavy competition to achieve world acclaim. But as the only cellular phone with a coveted Japanese Nikkei Design Award tucked under our belts, it seems our product had that something extra.
Motorola! Ooh. Call for Motorola!
So if you want the world leader in cellular phones,
call for Motorola!
When I finally give this game away, I don't want to be worrying about money. Sure, I've got superannuation. But is it enough to live well on? So, I had a chat with my bank, Westpac. Their financial advisors really helped me plan for my future. Even showed me how I can top up my super. Now, thanks to Westpac, I'll have plenty to live on. I'm really looking forward to putting my feet up.
Mazdas are built to work. And right now, all vans, trucks and Bravo Utes are priced to go. Plus, Mazda will throw in a free $700 Sid Chrome toolkit. And Bravo 4x2s and 4x4s come with a free tray. With great deals on Mazda trucks, vans and Utes, a free toolkit and a free Ute tray, it's a deal that's built to work.
No matter where you live in Australia, when it comes to carpet, there's only one thing you need to know.
There's magic in a Solomon's carpet.
Yes, Solomons are Australia's largest carpet specialists, and in every Solomon store you'll find friendly expert service, a huge range of the finest carpets, and all at surprisingly low prices.
Ha-ha!
Remember, no one can carpet your home like Solomon's.
A Solomon's store offers so much more. Save in style at Solomon's.
They're magic.
Strong and getting stronger. Classic Kitchens is an old-fashioned firm with modern technology, keeping overheads low to give you, our customers, value for money. Visit the Classic Kitchen showrooms at Hampton and Bayswater. Consult our designers. They're the best in the business. A Classic Kitchen is a kitchen to be proud of. Come and see for yourself. In today's market, Classic Kitchens retain its competitive pricing structure. For value, quality, guarantee and service, Classic Kitchens.
Welcome back. Bob Davis just leaning back, relaxing for a moment. Bob, you're not all that upset, are you?
No, no, Bruce. I rang all the group that I played with, and not one of them are in. You know, they're very concerned about the Victorian jumpers, quite really. And this blaze, there it is. Look, made to last. 1950, this one. Still 1950 in Brisbane. Still fitting me perfectly, of course. What about this one here? Look, 1958. Not too bad. No. And
keep going.
This is the infamous one, unfortunately.
Oh, the coat hanger.
Good. Coach in 1963. Only one to get beaten on the Melbourne cricket ground. But still, Ron got beaten in 61 up in Brisbane.
Yeah, he did. South Australia beat you, didn't they? Lindsay Hare kicked a couple of quick goals.
Oh, no, when Ron was captain of Victoria.
That was 63, yeah.
No, 61.
I wasn't the coach.
Yeah, but you were captain, Ron.
Yeah, WA won the carnival that year, didn't they, with Hayden Bunton?
No, they fluked it.
Oh, well, they might have fluked it. So Bobby's pretty upset. Does it bother you, Barres, that the jumper's on sale for $49?
I'd rather it not be, but like the people who have won one, they know themselves they've won it. They've known. So it's not a big deal to me, but I'd rather it not be so, if possible. I just wanted to...
Well, you're advertising the rugby now, so nothing's sacred to you anymore.
Just wanted to correct Scotty on one thing. Our man from Port Adelaide was quite a success over here at North Melbourne, Scotty. He used to come across for Thursday night's training and stay till the match. And
Russell Ebert.
Russ, yeah. He was terrific.
I mean, the difference, I guess, is that Ebert was 29 when he came over, and Robbins 21, I guess.
That's the big difference.
And he'd proven himself.
Been here at 21, he would have slayed him.
And he had proven himself. He won 4 Magarey medals, and Matthew Robin hasn't quite achieved that at this stage, even though his dad won 3, but that doesn't mean he's won them. So there's a big difference between the two men.
It's a big pity, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, it's strange.
I really find it strange. Well, particularly as his old man's a champion, or was a champion.
He may play for Adelaide next year.
And talking about champions, I thought it was fantastic to see Simon Madden back. He didn't have
4 goals.
He wasn't unbelievably successful, but he kicked 4 goals out of 7, which is a pretty good day's work. But
you give him a vote, Ron? 4 out of 7?
No, but to see a guy come back, you know, after playing reserves, he would have copped a lot of flack, but he went down there and he played with honour. You know why? Because he loves footy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Gerard Healy, Pert, has he got any hope of playing on, as one of the selectors, of playing on Tuesday night?
Well, I think his form yesterday was pretty good, and if we are skinny in one particular area, it is probably in the back division, and Pert showed yesterday that he's almost back to his best, and he was running pretty fast and hard at the ball, so his name, I'm sure, will come up tonight. Whether or not he gets in will be up to the co-selectors, I guess, but great to see Plugger down there. He came down, I saw Billy Goggin and Teddy Whitten, they were there to have a look at his injury. Their faces dropped when they saw him turn up, and they thought he may be missing, but fortunately for everybody in Victoria, he's going to be there. Will be a great highlight.
Good news that David Rhys-Jones, Robbo, made a comeback yesterday.
It was pretty exciting stuff at Princes Park, Bruce. He kicked 2 goals in the first quarter, and the fans love him up there. The Carlton people really have taken to David Rhys-Jones.
Speaking about coming back, good to see Kelvin Moore here. Kelvin, have you returned because you're going to be Teddy Whitten's bodyguard on Tuesday night?
Well, no, I've got a theory on that actually, because, you know, I'm back because there's a story floated that someone been throwing a few knives about. He got me in January, fixed up his ex-coach the other day, and I might just employ Tim as that bodyguard this coming week.
Tim, that's an awful thing to say. What sort of a week?
Very cruel thing to say, Kelvin.
Tim, have you been disturbed by the revelation during the week that you felt that Kevin Sheedy should have left Essendon?
Well, at the time I was, and that was taken from a speech at the Williamstown Football Club about a month ago. And I mean, headlines can be very damning, and the way that was headlined obviously was to attract attention to that article. But I've written an article myself during the week, just trying to put the whole thing back into context. And I think that if people read that, then they'll understand why I said what I did.
Fair enough. Gerard, the votes from yesterday's big game, more than 60,000 at Waverley Park to see Geelong and Collingwood.
Yes, it was a very entertaining game. Collingwood prevailed. After looking down and out in that third quarter, I gave 3 votes to Michael McGuan. He did an excellent job playing in the middle. He had Couch as an opponent, and he did dominate. Graham Wright, well, he was fantastic on the wing. Some of the balls he gets out of the centre, bursting in with total enthusiasm and aggression at the ball, was excellent. And Gavin Brown, eclipsed Gary Ablett in a fantastic contest. Brown was responsible for Ablett. Didn't actually tag him, but he played around in and near him, and he beat him in many one-on-one battles. And some of the tackling on Ablett by Brown was absolutely fantastic. It was like a Sherman tank going in, and really did upset the Geelong superstar. But it was Collingwood's day. They kept persisting in very ordinary weather. Geelong's big guns didn't fire. Stoneham was pretty ordinary. Craig Kelly eclipsed him. Gaffer, the human blanket, well, he smothered Billy Brownless, who had an absolute shocker. And Gary Pert was responsible for Brown, and Brown was taken from the ground. Terrific team effort from Collingwood. They had some good players all over the ground.
Do you think this is the best way to counteract a champion like Ablett, is to put another champion on him?
I think it's the way football's going, Brass. I think it was an excellent move by Matthews, and Ablett was on top in the first quarter, and he actually kicked 2 goals in the second quarter. So possibly at that stage, it looked like may not have worked. But Brown just kept at the task, kept on burrowing away, and in the end, Ablett, I'm sure, was looking out for where Brown was.
Jared, was the Collingwood leg speed of 5 of their players responsible for getting the ball away from Geelong?
Well, it was a day for upsets, Bob, and I think that Collingwood's structure was a little bit better suited to the conditions than Geelong's, and I think that will be a problem for Geelong if the conditions are a little bit wet in September, particularly on that big Waverley ground. They may have to have a look at it. There's Spiro Malakalis. They've got a couple of other little players down there that they could bring in. But certainly yesterday, with their big guns up forward not firing, they did look a little bit underdone.
Jared, and Ron for that matter, the big con that Manson pulled, is that something that the Laws Committee, or whatever you call yourself, will have to look at? And what do you think about it, Jared?
Well, I thought it was an excellent ploy from Charles Manson. In fact, Mick McGuan, I saw him, it was almost like a set play. Mick McGuan, as soon as Manson went down, ran from the half-back flank to get to the forward pocket. But the umpires were quite alert to that, and they said for Ronnie McEwen to take the kick, which was... Well, it was nip and tuck as to who's the better shot at goal between Manson and Ronnie.
They've obviously thought about it before.
Exactly. That'd be Lee Matthews, because he's a canny coach, and that's fair enough. But Manson, showed a good deal of smarts, but very dumb to then let it out of the bag and let the umpires know that they've been made a fool of, and they'll remember that.
He should have faked for a bit longer, you think, Ron?
Much longer.
Jared, I'd like to ask you a question about when an opposition coach is going to start to rate McGuan as one of the real key players in the Collingwood team and maybe send a tagger out.
Well, I think it's difficult to do that, Robbo, because I'm sure the coaches know that McGuan is a fantastic player, but McGuan had the responsibility for Couch. Now, Couch is a magnificent player, and I think that's the best way to go. If a key player is being tagged, well, then you put him on the best player in the opposition, and it's very hard then to counter that move, because well, you're playing one-on-one, one player against the other, and I think it's something that started about late 80s, but and it's going to continue on. I think we'll probably see a little bit of it in the state game coming up on Tuesday.
Fair enough, Jared Healy. Kelvin Moore went to the Western Oval at one stage. Footscray led 10 goals to 3. They're on top of the ladder today, but Kelvin, it must have been a hollow victory in some sorts.
Yes, it possibly was. They looked like league leaders from the outset when they piled on 6 quick goals and were getting the ball quite easily out of the centre. And I'll just go into the votes. I gave Coleman 3 votes. It was a toss-up actually between him and Scott Wine, and Glenn won the toss. But his marking was a highlight in the game, and he was a very important cog in the machine when the game was in the balance, as was Scott Winder, who was now developed into a very proficient ruckman and one of the best in the comp. And I gave 1 vote to Mark Hunter in the back pocket, very steady, and great support for Campbell at full back, who incidentally gloved the ball very clean in that there, and was a great player. But as I said, Footscray started very well out of the middle. A lot to do with Wine in the ruck. Liberatore, Atkins and Baxter were great players early in the game, but a lot of credit should be given to Richmond. They did persevere. Lambert started to run rampant in that second term. Received great support from Free, who was thrown into the fray, along with Powell and Smith in that the third term, I should say. And by early in the last quarter, they levelled the scores, but it was just the polish in the finishing off area which cost them the game, and that's what Footscray had.
Kel, buddy, Powell.
Matey, yeah.
The Campbell from Richmond played very well last week, a young player. How did he play yesterday?
Yes, I've watched him a couple of times, and he's an unobtrusive type of player, but he picked up a number of possessions, and he's been getting in excess of 20 a week, so he's a player to watch, and something that Richmond are going to have to build on, those types of players.
Kelvin, if you were to coach a footy side, would you look forward to having a crack at Richmond? Do you think they've got something to work with?
I think they have got something to offer. I mean, players like Free, they've got those up-and-comers we just spoke about with Campbell. Young Maxfield in the centre was completely outclassed in the first term, but fought his way back and is a very solid contributor. Smith on the wing, so there's definitely something there, and I think that Jeans is very good at finishing off a side, and I think you'll find that the Tigers will get that polish.
Do you have the videotape out at half-time this week?
No idea, Jared. No idea about that one, but it worked the week before.
Yes, well, did you notice any of the Jeans' traits in the side? You were coached by him for a long while?
Yes, just little things, the knock-ons, the tap-ons, which I think Jeans really instigated in AFL footy. And just the way they position themselves to run past the handball across, into the player's vision. Those little things you can see creeping in their play now.
So high hopes for Richmond, maybe in the future, and certainly Footscray. They're on top of the table. We take a break. Princes Park, Carlton, Essendon after this one.
A ray of sunshine.
You can't leave home yet.
With hopes and dreams.
You can't tell me what to do anymore.
A young life.
Let me grow up. I wish you would.
Cut short.
Amber's brain dead.
Leaving behind despair, anger.
Can't you just tell me whose fault it is?
And broken dreams. IXL proudly presents A Country Practice Monday.
From now until the end of the financial year, your Mitsubishi dealer will offer great savings on the entire range of Mitsubishi Express vans and Mitsubishi Tritons. So if you really want to save on Triton or Express, we'll give you a few days to think about it.
Blacktop's a street game. Observe the street rules. Life is short. Play hard. Reebok.
Bob Walker's got a hammer drill, Dennis Slap has got a saw. Wayne Pink has timber, hammers, nails, now Petrie even more. Craig Coltman, he'll take all the time, Graham Ray will lend a hand, and Frank Brannan can tell you how they've all got mighty plan. Ask Mitre 10, they've got the lot. You can ask Mitre 10, they've got the lot.
Just ask Mitre 10.
A deal like this.
Twice the speed of a hang glider.
An exciting new sport or a breakthrough in flight technology.
The first flight of the Swift.
The ride of your life on Beyond 2000 Tuesday.
Welcome back with the Blues kick straight and Essendon kick 111 in the second term. Carlton back into the top six. Kernahan with 7, Rhys Jones with 4. Ian Robertson.
Well, it was a good game for probably half. Essendon had some chances in the second quarter that I'm sure they'll have a real good look at the video and try and work out how they could manage 2-11 in a quarter of football, following on from 17-22 against Geelong the week before. I gave 3 votes to Bradley, the ultimate professional, a magnificent footballer, and probably should get more and more credit. I thought Hannah was very, very good in the back line. Every kick that he had was an effective kick. And Stephen Kernahan, a wonderful game from him at up and full forward. And if only Carlton can afford to leave him up there. Spalding is quite efficient at centre half forward, so it's a bonus for the Blues to be able to leave Kernahan back at full forward. Having a look at Essendon, I think their second quarter must have taken the the real impetus out of their performance for the afternoon. To kick 211, their chances were not all that difficult. A lot of them were from probably 40 metres out and not difficult angles. So their performance following on from the game against Geelong was, well, very disappointing. Their second half, they succumbed quite meekly. There doesn't look as though there's a lot of spirit there. Maybe, you know, the other commentators might be able to include something on that. But I think Carlton have got something to work with. They've got the opportunity, obviously, to finish in the finals. And with Justin Madden playing quite well and players like Williams still to improve, I think that they've got something to look forward to for the rest of the year.
Robbo, against Geelong, they had, on the statistics, they evidently had more of everything. Yesterday, they were doing the same thing. And at the game that I was at, Melbourne were behind but had a lot more possession. Is something new, or what's the story with that?
Well, have a look at this passage of play here. There's about 3 or 4 tap-ons, handballs. Denham probably could have nearly had a shot for goal himself the first time, and eventually Michael Long, who looked nonplussed, whether he thought he'd fluked getting into the clear, and then kicked the ball straight across the face of goal to go out of bounds on the full. Now, I suppose if you've got key forwards to contribute something, like Carlton have Spalding and Kernahan, whereas Essendon struggled in those positions yesterday, the players down the ground don't have. Look at Reece Jones here. This is just absolutely fantastic. Fought hard, tackled, and then got the ball out.
Salmon badly missed, obviously.
I think that's important. So the week before, he kicked, I think, 4 goals in the first quarter, went off injured, and they lost their way a little bit.
In the last couple of years, and including this week, I mean, you've Salmon out. There's no Van der Haar. Terry Danaher can no longer do those sorts of things. Somerville hasn't come up. They haven't got the...
You missed Tim.
What did you think of the votes? You were
the votes?
Yeah, what did you
I
think?
gave Kernahan
3.
Yeah, and I gave Ratton 1, and I gave Bradley. Bradley's second half was sensational, and Williams' second half was very good too.
Yeah, just a quick mention, Bruce, I thought Kilpatrick played very well for Essendon. Mark Harvey could probably consider himself to be a bit stiff not to get 1 vote. Simon Madden-Barras has already mentioned, it was great to see him back. And I think Essendon have got someone in young Ridley who, with a few more games under his belt, can be a player.
Going to be a bit of a clean out there this week, we're here.
Yeah.
Is that the rumour, Timmy?
No one's talking to me at the moment, Ron.
They are so, come on.
Have you heard anything? Is that right, Ron, or is that... no, some players will go?
Well, that's what I've read.
Well, Johnson's gone last week, didn't he?
Yeah.
David Johnson.
David Johnson.
Yeah, OK. Well, it's interesting because Kevin Sheedy wrote an interesting article during the week about stability in a club in response to Tim's article, or the article written about Tim, and well, they're making a lot of changes, but
obviously doesn't apply to set positions on the ground, Bruce.
No, it was
yeah, I thought it was an article which revolved around the stability of a club solely on the coach. I mean, to me, stability of the club mainly rests. It certainly rests partially with the coach, but certainly it rests with the administration.
Yes. Well, there's been some changes at Essendon in the last 10 years.
Oh, well, in 10 years' time, you're going to have some changes, but Timmy, they've been pretty stable, haven't they?
Yeah, the club have been very stable over the time I was there. I think that the president has changed only 3 times in 15 or 16 years, and most of the other staff around the club have been pretty stable there. So I don't think that the club itself has had any major upheavals during that time.
OK. Bob, you've been pretty stable over the years.
And probably Melbourne may stabilise after yesterday, Bruce, because they started very well, lost their way for a little while in the second quarter, but then in the third quarter when especially young Charles and Obbs, who has been out, got back into form with Lovett, the team started to play well and gave Northey something to think about. The votes yesterday I gave were Lovett, who came up. He's a very good defender, come through the centre, go up and help in the forward line, an excellent player. Pickering showed probably why they did bring him across from Richmond. He played very well, and Yates is always a solid player for them, as well as I thought Obbs and young Charles were the keys to them. Actually, North Melbourne played very well. They kicked extremely accurately in the first half of the game, so much I think they had 13-1 up at one stage. Longmire had kicked 3 or 4, and Brian Steins, Jimmy's brother, yes, but this was on Brian Steins, who was given the rather hard task in his first match to play on Longmire. But Northey showed some heart with him and left him there for quite a while. But after half-time, North Melbourne seemed to disappear from the game for some unaccountable reason. whether or not it's a statistic that I just picked up. They've lost their last 7 games at the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Bobby, would you ever ask yourself the question, with Richmond probably needing experience, why would Michael Pickering be allowed to leave Richmond and play good football with Melbourne?
Well, why would Spalding and O'Dwyer and those leave Melbourne? And
well,
why?
the answer was because they wanted a ruckman. They needed a ruckman more than they needed Pickering, so they went for O'Dwyer on an exchange.
Is it not easier to try and build your own, or are you just going to go through and try and bring established players from the other side?
Well, if you look at St Kilda, they've gone from there to there by recruiting well. You look at North Melbourne, they're trying to bring them through the under-19s, and they've gone backwards. If you look at the Crows, they've gone trying to play their own, and they've gone backwards.
North Melbourne under-19 because they cleared 3 or 4 of their most promising under-19 players.
Bobby, do you think North Melbourne, the makeup of their side of the players, lack leadership? I'm not talking about their captain, vice-captain, but just in general terms, a lot of players lack that leadership quality or authority about their game, particularly when the chips are down.
Well, the two I suppose you expect to show are Carey, who is a little bit in and out for mine, doesn't play consistently well all the time. Longmire's in the same position, and probably Larkin is not doing as well as he was. And those fellas you would expect to lead the team and give them heart and carry them on. But they're not doing it just at the moment.
Bobby, you did your homework with their performances at the MCG. It'd be interesting to see North Melbourne's second half scores in the last couple of years, because when they fade very badly. 13-4 after half-time yesterday. We take a break. Dennis Cometti's going to join us after this, and we're going to talk State of Origin football and West Coast and Adelaide.
Last week's casualties were...
I don't have a cousin. Well, I loved it.
I hated it. Who's going to cop it on fast for this Thursday night?
It's easy to dress up any house and contents insurance package to look the same. Lots of insurance policies promise new for old replacement, but most have severe age limits on contents. 5 years is useless. 10 years is not much better. But SIO's plain English policy is different. There's definitely no age limit. Just genuine new replacement, and no need to prove how old things were. For genuine house and contents insurance, call SIO. Insurance as it should be.
Are you safe and secure for the holidays? You are with Lumobile's Blue Ribbon Major Service and a Robinson's Road Atlas of Australia.
Blue Ribbon's the most thorough and exhaustive service ever. We check everything so you can explore every page of your Robinson's Atlas, free with every Blue Ribbon service. We take care of your car and of you. Lumobile's guaranteed Blue Ribbon service. Call 690-7177.
Call now. Stay safe.
At BP, our emphasis on research and testing often leaves an impression on our visitors.
4th floor, aviation fuel research. Sixth floor, marine oil testing. 7th floor, motorsport fuel and oil testing.
And everything we learn from this research, we put to use in a very practical place. Your local BP service station.
Pizza for Ted King? Top floor.
Top floor, space research.
BP, on the move.
You ain't gonna get the baby animals unless you catch them live at the Palais. And you ain't gonna get all their hit singles and 4 bonus live tracks unless you get the Baby Animals Tour souvenir album.
I would never wanna rush you.
Baby Animals kick into Melbourne Monday, June 15.
One word, one letter, one line.
Tickets on sale now.
You gon' get my love tonight.
Well, it was a reasonably dull match on Friday night between West Coast and Adelaide. West Coast winning by 40, except for Some exhilarating play by the Eagles in the opening term when they kicked 5 goals in the space of 7 minutes. Dennis Committee worked that match on Friday night. Welcome, Dennis.
Yes, good morning, Bruce.
They were exciting there for that short period of time where they won the match very quickly and then probably found it a bit tough to be motivated to finish Adelaide off.
I think that's the key, really. People talk about a fade-out as far as the West Coast Eagles are concerned, but really it's the toughest of all contracts when you've got that big lead by quarter time, 8 goals coming in the first term, and suddenly then working on to win the game. I thought Dean Laidley was terrific. I gave him the top votes. 3 votes to Dean Laidley. He did play very well indeed, dogged by injury. He's made it all the way back now. Peter Wilson, talking about that first term, quite outstanding, Wilson. I think 10 possessions in the opening quarter really set the tone for the West Coast Eagles. He was so lively. Chris McDermott, well, he continues to struggle in a losing cause. They've lost 4 straight now, the Adelaide Crows. McDermott, though, really got a lot of the ball. Matera getting back to form. And generally, for wet weather football, that first term, as we've said, really the touch of the Eagles was quite exceptional.
They had a lot of players, Dennis, who played extraordinarily well for a portion of the match.
Yes, that was interesting. I suppose all the players could say, with 1 or 2 exceptions, they had a good half hour. So from that point of view, Michael Malthouse would be well pleased because a lot of these players are showing good form. The exceptions probably, or one notable exception, would be Peter Sumich. And there's a goal by Dwayne Lamb, who played well as well. Jakovic was terrific early. His half hour came in the first half hour. In fact, he's a player now growing in stature and one of the rising stars in the competition. Lewis also very good early. But full credit to Sumich in as much as he presented himself constantly and really was one of the reasons why the forward line worked as well as it did. It sounds a contradiction almost, but he was presenting himself on the lead, and as a result there was a focal point up forward for the West Coast Eagles. By contrast, really that's how Adelaide went into attack. They get something out of this, but generally their attacks were very spasmodic. Modra is a player who's going to be a good one for them, but at the present time Adelaide just don't have enough.
Dennis, you mentioned about Glenn Jakovic. They could probably do with another 2 like him.
Well, most sides in the competition, I guess Robbo could, but he's a terrific young player, and I think he's playing on good players week in, week out and doing the job. And that was symptomatic, I think, of the Eagles right there, the way they strung it together, ran the ball into the forward line, ran it all across the ground, really. It was a big night for them. Where the Adelaide Crows go from here, I'm not sure. They've got some big problems. Bad start, we've seen that before in Perth. The team doesn't get away, and really the night or the day is lost. Footscray had happened to them, and then the Eagles jumped Adelaide on Friday night. Same scenario, really.
Dennis, Craig Turley appears just to be off the boil a little bit, and that may be doing him a disservice. He may be injured, but at the present time he's nowhere near the outstanding player he was last year. Is there an injury problem there, or is he just down on form?
Well, I think there was initially, Gerard, but now he's got to get back, I think. It's an interesting one as far as the Eagles are concerned because he started the last couple of games, 2 certainly, maybe 3, on the interchange bench, so what they do with Turley remains to be seen. Anyone who saw him play against Collingwood in Darwin thought he was set for a great season, but obviously that hasn't come to pass. Bear in mind, this time last year he was playing more as a tagger, and that may be the way to run him back into form, I think, if Michael Malthouse uses him more in that role, with good players taking him to the ball. At the present time, I think he's a ruck rover being tagged.
Dennis, will Stephen O'Reilly get into the team?
Well, I hope so, Bobby. He played well against South Australia a couple of weeks ago in the state game, not a State of Origin match. WA played South Australia. Most impressive. I hadn't seen much of him before. Good size, and that's a question, obviously, with a little Geelong bias in it. I think he'll be a very good player for the Cats.
And, Dennis, the effect this State of Origin match may have on West Coast?
I think it's come at a very bad time. Look, I doubt they can win. I've got to say that. I doubt they can win at the MCG. That being the case, if they get a mauling, terrible to be talking like this, I suppose, going into the game, but if they lose badly, then suddenly what they've created in the last few games could be lost. So
wouldn't you say it was a perfect time to play it, Dennis, considering they're playing on Friday night? They played Friday night, they get a far better rest, and then they've got the bye, which seems unbelievable. Perhaps they've got contacts at higher areas of the AFL, but they've got a distinct advantage, and having the bye, at least they're getting a pretty solid run under their belt.
I think the timing in that respect is fine, Gerard. I think they can't complain there. I just think the timing from a team point of view, coming up against what will be quality opposition at the MCG, I mean, they've got their momentum rising now after what was a sluggish start. Confidence is probably on the up again. And as I say, I'm not sure they can win this game, and if they get badly beaten, then maybe some of these players who are running back into form will have that question mark lingering over them again. They've got a couple of weeks to shrug it off, I guess, but I just think the timing from the Eagles' point of view, speaking selfishly, is just not good as far as they're concerned, but that's the way the draw is.
Thanks for that this morning, Dennis, and we'll see you on Tuesday night.
OK, Bruce, see you soon.
Dennis Cometti on the West Coast game. Tim Watson went to Moorabbin yesterday. Tony Lockett had 8 goals to half-time. Tim, was there some thought that the all-time record of 18 would be challenged at that stage?
Well, there was, and Lockett stood out probably as the only highlight of the game early on in the game, and he had 3 opponents by half-time, and really the whole crowd were just guessing as to see how many goals he might kick by the end of the day. I gave him 3 votes for his 12 goals. Tim Allen, who's developing into a very handy defender, very poised and very intelligent player, and also Brett Bauer, who burrowed in and fed out the hard balls all day. But the 2 highlights were Lockett's goal spree, the 12 goals, and the other highlight actually came when a black dog ran onto the field during the second quarter, and for the first time there was a bit of life in the Bears forward line. The St Kilda experiment of taking Harvey, Winmar off the ground at different times. They were trying to rest these players. They've had a fairly heavy schedule. They've got state commitments, and also they ran Danny Frawley on the ball for a while too. St Kilda have developed into a very good, tall, mobile backline, and I think that Ken Sheldon has done his homework in this area. And when they come up against formidable forwards, tall forwards, then they won't have any problem at all stopping those players.
Like next week when they play Geelong at Cardinia Park?
Exactly, like next week when they do play Geelong there. And
Tim, a couple of years ago, Bobby criticised the Bears. They were too fat, too slow, and a few other adjectives, but and they were the worst side he'd ever seen. What do you think right at the moment?
At the moment, they're probably the worst side in the league by a number of goals. And yesterday they went into the game without Merritt, probably their best player, McLean, Ashcroft, Champion. And they really just have not got the players in reserve to cover those sorts of players.
Tim, young Green was asked at full back, according to what we read, to play behind Lockett. Do you find that a surprise instruction for a full back to play behind a forward?
Well, I don't think so. I think that Lockett, the style of play that Lockett has is he does like to get his opponent in front of him and then edge him out with his ample chest. And I just thought that yesterday it wouldn't have mattered who you played on him. And I mean, Ashley Green could have gone out there with the machete and he still wouldn't have been able to stop Tony Lockett.
Yes, a dozen for Lockett yesterday. Thanks for that report, Tim. Last week's votes, Ron Barassi at Richmond and Sydney went Campbell, Honeybun and Naish. Campbell mentioned again today. The Brisbane Footscray match, Tim Watson, Grant, Liberatore and Bain, and Adelaide and Collingwood. Ross Glendinning went to Wright, who's had a very good week. Lee for Adelaide, and Brown, who's also had an excellent week. As we look at progressive votes, pretty tight at the top. Atkins, Lowe and Wine, so 2 Footscray players there. Dunstall with an opportunity today, along with Tunbridge, to earn votes. Ablett and Bradley. Wright has moved up to 8, and Derek Kickett and Ken Hinkley. OK, we take a break. Goals of the week coming up after this.
Can Donna Mills find true happiness with her young male secretary?
I'm really good with my hands.
The world's oldest living bridesmaid premieres Wednesday on 7.
Until the end of the financial year, your Mitsubishi dealer will offer great savings on the entire range of Mitsubishi Express vans and Mitsubishi Tritons. So if you really want to save on Triton or Express, we'll give you a few days to think about it.
When I sweat in Adidas.
Sweats, new from Adidas, at sports and department stores.
This is a home handyman or renovator's nightmare. Holes, gaps and cracks, internally or externally. But one sachet of Expando foam and a few minutes work, and it's practically done. There's no messy mixing. Just pull the clip and squeeze. Expando foam expands to fill the hole, gap or crack precisely. Wait 20 minutes, a light sand, seal, and it's ready for painting. Expando foam, the easy answer to every home handyman or builder's worst nightmares.
If a $60,000 property grew in value by 12% per annum, it would be worth over $180,000 in just 10 years. Between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, Australia's fastest growing area, units are available from $60,000 to $90,000. If a tenant was paying $100 a week rent, repayments would be reduced by that rent and the balance would become a legitimate taxation deduction. All you need is $10,000 deposit and from $20 a week. Call Investco now on 882 9999.
A deal like this comes along.
Winning magic. The unforgettable classic that's thrilled generations. The Wizard of Oz, 8:30 Friday on 7.
In a moment, goals of the week with the old and the new. Bob and Tim.
The goal of the week and the goal of the year are brought to you by BP. BP, on the move.
Of course he was, son. Here's Douglas Hawkins here, going around on his left foot and bringing it back. Nice, easy goal for Douglas. And there's Yul Brunner.
Modry from
on the ground. Well done. A young boy from Wangaratta, Chris Nash, who's a very good player. Great snapshot of the goal. Very good on non-preferred foot, going straight through.
Going for distance.
Modry from the Adelaide Crows again, getting that mark and snapping over his shoulder for a very fine snapshot.
And most impressive young player with the Eagles, Ben Hart. And I think he's going to be a very, very good player. Watching here and straight through.
Now that was Darryl, in fact, Darryl Hart for the
Here
Crows.
is unbelievable Gary Ablett going towards the pocket, snapping the ball. It's a very difficult shot, not because of the angle, but because of the wet ball also.
And we see his brother, or his partner in crime, Peter Dacos, doing one exactly the same, being able to control the wet ball and getting it through for a magnificent goal.
And with any other player, you'd call this goal a freak, but or a fluke. But Peter Dacos just seems to be able to come up with those week after week.
Shane Morwood going around here, bringing the ball back, taking it straight through with a bit of a bounce, but it's through for the goal.
And with the wet conditions, another soccer goal. David Rees-Jones sizing that up then, but I think he might have even been a little bit surprised that that went through for a major.
And anyone that can kick 12 goals on one day, we have to get one of them. And here's Tony going around, regulation for him and banking it straight through the centre.
And Bobby, the goal of the day?
Well, I left it to you because if it had been with a round ball, I'd said it was marvellous. But as it was the other one, but it was a beautiful, spectacular goal. Peter Dacos.
Peter Dacos for the goal of the day for this magnificent soccer off the ground. He's just a marvellous player and very skillful as Peter Dacos. And really, as I said before, anyone else you'd call that a fluke, but for Peter Dacos, it's just a regimental shot.
Well, some of the round-by-round winners, Dacos joining the other names, Kicker, Krasiska, Hinkley, Devonport and Carey. Now, the goal-kicking table is closing a bit. Dunstall 61 and Lockett 54. What a contest. Even money, flip of the coin, one or the other. They're Osborne, Ablett, Kernahan, all in the 30s. So they're going to, if they keep going, they're going to challenge the 100 goals. And then Dacos and Longmire. OK, marks of the week. And in just a moment, Ian and Jared.
The Mark of the Week and the Mark of the Year are proudly brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors.
Well, the first one today is Chris Grant. In torrid conditions, excellent mark in the wet.
Young Modra's featured quite well this morning, and there's a terrific mark by him.
And here's one from David Honeybun, who had an excellent second half at the MCG last week. Backed into the pack, good strong hands.
One of the up-and-comers that Richmond will be relying on for the future years, Griffiths.
And Todd Menengola, this one reminds me of Royce Hart's mark. on Peter Walker in the 67 grand final.
And this is a great effort by Schwert, running with the flight of the ball.
Pretty average mark, I thought. Was a little bit wet, but a reasonable mark to Gary Hocking.
And good on you, Tim McGrath, after your first game against Jason Dunstall, doing well for Geelong.
Now here's Actors Equity's latest nomination, James Manson.
Shane Morwood, a very skillful player and very important for Collingwood.
Sheer courage and talent here with Peter Dean. Looked like he was going to go the right hand, threw out the left and brought down a great mark.
And one of the highlights, well, we didn't get Scott McIvers, but we're looking for the spectacular this morning, weren't we? And
well, I liked Peter Dean's. It was excellent, and I thought that had everything: courage, spectacularness, if that's a word. And
yes, I think Peter Dean. There's no doubting that he has tremendous courage, and this is shown quite obviously here. Running back high, controlled it nicely, and brought it to the ground.
Good on you, boys. And he joins Wilden, Bradley, Kickett, Lowe, Lewis and some others that have been round-by-round winners in the marks of the week. Bobby, we don't have long, but the two matches, Sydney and Hawthorn, and the interstate game on Tuesday night.
Well, you'd certainly think that you'd have to pick Hawthorn, although the Swans do play their own ground reasonably well, and one could only go for Victoria, Bruce. I wouldn't worry about who they were playing.
Tim?
I'm going for Hawthorn and Victoria.
Okay.
Yes, Hawthorn and Victoria, Bruce.
Robbo?
Tip the Swans for a bit of an upset.
Okay.
I think Victoria can win.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll go for the Hawks and Victoria, of course.
And Ron?
Hawks and Victoria.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. A lot of footy coming up. We'll take a break.
12 o'clock today. From the creators of all your favourites, the Disney classics you'll never forget. The Magical World of Disney, today at noon.
At BP, our emphasis on research and testing often leaves an impression on our visitors.
4th floor, aviation fuel research. Sixth floor, marine oil testing. Seventh floor, motorsport fuel and oil testing.
And everything we learn from this research, we put to use in a very practical place. Your local BP service station.
Pizza for Ted King? Top floor.
Top floor, space research.
BP, on the move.